Hello, good afternoon to one and all present here. Trade between India and the US didn't collapse overnight due to tariffs. It froze because of one man's ego. A phone call that never connected. A ready deal halted under Trump's presidency. Replaced by public threats, 500% tariff tweets, and Washington's contradictory whispers about whether any agreement ever existed. This isn't strategy or diplomacy. It's royalty and supremacist posturing. While Washington sulked, India refused to panic. We signed FTAs across Europe, closed with the UK, Oman, New Zealand, and almost finalized Israel, Mauritius, next in the pipeline. This is leverage. US companies crave India. American capital floods India. But US trade policy, driven by one man's ego, not institutions, builds deals on humiliation that crumble under elections and court challenges to tariff powers. In geopolitics, whoever needs the deal more loses. India doesn't beg, we diversify, strengthen, and wait. Procurement now carries corporate India's responsibility to the nation, delivering strategic mandates that align business resilience with national sovereignty through sustainability. Triple bottom line, people, planet, profit, frameworks, architect, tariff-proof supply chains, scope 3 emissions become trade weapons via CBAM, ESG-linked sourcing, firewalls, green credibility, circular procurement turns waste into input sovereignty. Corporate India shoulders direct accountability. Procurement leaders must localize 70% critical inputs by 2027 per national PLI schemes, hitting 25% scope 3 emissions while sustaining 15% EBITDA through supplier ecosystems immune to US ego plays or China's curbs. This isn't compliance, it's strategic citizenship. Amid erratic international trade-related policy whims from Washington, Europe's regulatory overreach, or should I say labyrinth, China's hegemonical blackmail amidst other supply, finance, and more micro-level threats to local governments, and general chaotic volatility all across the world. How can the triple bottom line empower procurement to master scope 3 emissions, enforce ESG vetting, and scale circular sourcing for true sovereignty? Open to you guys. Whoever, you can take up the questions. I would prefer if you guys limit the answers to 2 to 3 minutes so that we can cover more topics. There is a long list of questions.
Shanmukh, are you throwing some questions or this is first the open
Should I repeat the question?
Yeah, I think the first one should be.
Amid erratic international trade-related policy wins from Washington, Europe's regulatory overreach, or should I say labyrinth, China's hegemonical blackmail amidst other supply, finance, and more micro-level threats to local governments, and general chaotic volatility all across the world, how can triple bottom line empower procurement to master scope 3 emissions, enforce ESG vetting, and scale circular sourcing for true sovereignty?
Hi, good afternoon. I think compliment to Shanmukh the way he narrated the whole 1 year story going around the world in 1 minute. Really very, very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Very nice. Good. I think this is the story which Shanmukh has narrated. We are going to the volatility and the whole burden comes on the supply chain professional. Maybe it was called resilience now and Shanmukh is shaping it to ESG as well. It's a plus now, resilience plus ESG resilience. Okay, I am Rajesh from Renew Power. We deal with renewable energy. We are in a complete solutioning, maybe wind, solar and battery. Currently, we have running assets of around 12 gigawatt, around 8 states in India, and we have another 12 gigawatt of pipeline for next 3 years. We normally commission 3 to 4 gigawatt every year. It's a combination of wind and solar, and plus over and above the battery storage system at a grid level. That will be another 2 to 3 gigawatt hour per year. So this is by and large one of the largest in India so far. So this is what our company is all about, and we spend about $2 billion in supply chain. So mainly it's from a neighboring country, because the whole renewable industry is dependent on the China. So maybe it's a wafer, maybe battery storage, maybe wind. Wind is more or less Indianized, but some of the critical components still from there. So that's one. Secondly, see, ESG has become very, very critical for last maybe 1.5 to 2 years from a funding perspective also. Because now in the renewable industry, your base cases are ESG. I mean, there is nothing like you have to be ESG compliance, because you have started in the industry which is a ESG compliance only. I mean, you have to do plus over and above what you have been meant for, what your objective of the company was. KPI of the company was to counter the black power and neutralize the carbon emissions already, right? So that's one. Second is, so we have been doing this ESG for the last 3 years. So happy to announce that we scored 86 in the S&P Global ESGs this year, up from 77 2 years back, and we are the second company in the world in the electrical utility and IPP out of 349 companies in the world. And yesterday also, the company has been rated 90.42 out of 100 by London Stock Exchange Review Committee on ESG. It was previously called the Refinitiv, and that is also, we are second again in this similar set size of the companies. So what we have been doing is, one is the traceability we have been doing in China, because when we export to US and Europe, so there is a lot of emphasis on the traceability, because there is a challenge where most of the wafers are coming. So we have established our systems, and that's why we are the top company which is preferred in US because of our traceability audit, right from sourcing of polysilicon, etc., and right from top. Otherwise, some of the companies, their consignments are held up at the US ports because of this. And we have been doing a lot of around people. We have started this year on HRDD, human resources due diligence, around all the company, even our suppliers also. And we are doing this scope 3, again, the supply chain guy is a lot of responsibility on the scope 3, because scope 3 comes under him only for the corporate, full corporate. Scope 1 and scope 2, yes, maybe with the other guys. So scope 3 is for his suppliers. So he is making responsible for controlling scope 3, which is about, in our company, is about 80% plus. Because we have very less share on the scope 1, because we are a renewable company, so we don't manufacture much, so we erect. And there's an upstream side, is a very hardly anything in the carbon emission side. So scope 3, we have been doing a lot of work. So because of that, it comes out in the output of ESG rating of highest in India. So that's it.
Just want to, you want to go ahead first? Okay.
I go. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Rajesh Aggarwal. I am heading procurement for Allison Off-Highway Business Unit. We are in automotive industry, supplying transmissions and axles to all the major OEs in off-highway and commercial vehicle domain. I will just in few minutes give you a brief, history about the journey on the sustainability which we started somewhere in 2024 middle, because the CBAM requirement started coming from our customers in European Union, and and then new requirements came at that time, 24, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. So the main was, to first, change the mindset. First is our own mindset, how we were doing the business, and also once we were convinced and understood what it is, for the complete supply chain, because then tier 1 suppliers, tier 2 suppliers, educating them what exactly is scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. And if they don't change, then over a period of time, once the CBAM requirements start kicking in European Union, for sure, we will lose the business, they will lose the business, everybody will lose the business. So that journey we started educating all the supply base, tier 1, tier 2, started giving them trainings, one-to-one sessions of what it is. So that was the first phase which we completed in 2024 itself. Then the second was setting the targets. First our own internal targets, what we want to do, and then complete supply-based targets. So after detailed deliberation, both at India level and global level, we agreed that we should target scope 1 and scope 2 emissions to be reduced by 75% by 2030, and scope 3 target was 25% plus reductions in emissions by 2030. And we also decided that by 2040 we should be carbon neutral company in India. Then the third phase started, late 2024, that what is how to implement it. First we started working with ECMA, that is Automobile Component Manufacturer Association, and together with them we started having the sessions with our suppliers, key suppliers, telling them, working with them what they want to do. Then the baseline we started, because it is a reduction is there. So we started, agreed that 2023 will be our baseline year, and from that year we will start counting the percentage reduction in the emissions. And then we started collecting the data from the suppliers, sending them the questionnaires, what they are, around there were 30 questions which we asked them, and then started tabulating them. And then we started a review mechanism with all the major suppliers, tier 1 also and tier 2 suppliers. So then we started discussing how we want to do. Then the various we started pushing them. Initially it was a push that they should change the energy source to renewable source like solar or wind. This is how they can reduce the carbon emissions. With tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, most of our raw material is steel, and steel currently is produced from non-renewable sources. So we started pushing them. We worked with some of the steel mills, and one steel mill came with a green steel concept, that all the steel which they will make will be from renewable power, and so that the carbon emission norms can be reduced. And then various other options we discussed. Instead of wooden packing, start on the returnable packing. So and also using electric feed, complete during the transportation of the material from their plant to our plant, and then what we supply to our customers to use the electric feed. So this was a journey, and to make it more sustainable in our supply ratings, like we give ratings to all the suppliers. On the basis of that, we award the new business to the suppliers. So initially in the rating system, only 5% of the total rating was sustainability, but we increased it to 25%. So now all the new suppliers which we onboard, or the new business which we give, so the 25% rating is on the sustainability, and whatever the total rating is there, beside the cost, quality, delivery, and the financial status, risk assessment of the supplier. Based on that, we evaluate our supplier base. That is it from my side.
One small request, if you can keep the answer short. We have 35 more minutes.
Sure. So, thank you very much. My name is Manoj. I'm Chief Supply Chain Officer for Umbrella Enterprises. I also worked with earlier with Schneider Electric, LG Electronics, and Crompton Greaves. And this is very, very interesting input from both Mr. Rajesh, what we are doing in terms of sustainability. And I take the first point where we said, as supply chain professional, any disruption happen anywhere in the world, we are on the front to make sure that the supply chain or supplies remains consistently supplied, and we are able to give product to the customers. Now, couple of questions which came in my mind when we were doing it, like today when we talk about sustainability, does sustainability has a cost, right? And the answer is yes and no. As Mr. Rajesh has mentioned that when you invest on green power, right, your cost will come down, right?
It does.
But when you invest in technologies, whether it is water conservation or other things, you may have, higher infrastructure initially and your cost may go up. So the key question which comes in, and this is where in Amber, we are a OEM and ODM manufacturing company, right? And that means we have to look towards our customers also to understand that when we look about sustainability, this sustainability has also need to be designed at the product level, right? Take an example that when we look around 15 years back, 10 years back, somebody say, I want to use a recycled material or repurposed material, right? We always used to say, the quality would be inferior. And I was just going through a data, it says that 20% of the carbon emission comes in the upstream supply chain of raw material processing as well. So in design, if we say that I need to limit my material uses considering the carbon emission which it does when you process it, we will be building sustainability at the initial stage. That will help planet, that will help people, and that will also help profit. And that's the three engine which we are talking about. It is also important, as you mentioned, that today when we have lot of dependence on the raw material, how do we enhance our capability in upstream supply chain to have these recycling where the material is within the ecosystem to improve the efficiency of the processes and then start reusing them within the system. So I raise this question because we all are taking multiple initiatives in terms of supplier capturing the the emission norms. What about building it at the initial stage, which will help the overall supply chain? So just a different perspective. Thank you.
Very, very interesting, I think, points raised here. Very interesting discussion. I would want to bring in a perspective from my company. So I am Sachin Juneja from Apollo Tyres. I have been 21 years working here at Apollo Tyres. And first of all, sustainability or triple bottom line or ESG, whichever name we take to address what we are talking about. So it is something for Apollo which is very much a part of the business. It is not something which is beyond business. So the goal of the company, the objective and direction of the company, obviously any business wants to make money, they want to make profit. But what we are focusing, what we are pursuing is sustainable and profitable growth. So not only we should be able to make profit today, not only we should be able to grow today, it should be a journey which should be continuous and consistent into the future as well. So that is the vision with which we started sustainability at the company level. And we have been looking at the social aspects, the environmental impacts, embedding them into everything that we do as a part of doing business. So it's not something which is something on top of business, it is something which is very much a part of the business at the company level itself. As procurement, I would say around 5 years back, we had formally this framework which was released by ISO, which is ISO 2400 standard, which is a guidance for implementing and embedding sustainability into procurement. And I'm proud to share that Apollo has been the first company in the auto sector in India and among the few global tire majors who has adopted the framework of sustainable procurement through ISO 2400 standards. And we've begun our journey by looking at developing our policy itself. So the procurement policy, we tried to embed sustainability into the policy and the vision itself. So beginning from there and then using the framework of the standard, we have embedded sustainable elements, the aspects related to social, the aspects related to environment, we have embedded into our procurement processes. So both in terms of the sourcing processes, the new supplier selection processes, as well as the existing supplier sorry for that interruption. So not only the new supplier selection processes, as well as the suppliers who are a regular part of our business. So we need to assess them, we need to audit them continuously, we need to improve them continuously. So we have the frameworks in place both for the new supplier selection as well as the assessment development as a part of continuous improvement, the regular suppliers as well. So that's the way we have adopted sustainability, embedded sustainability into procurement at Apollo Tyres. So it is something which is very much a part of the business. It is very much a part of our procurement as we do it day in and day out basis. Thank you.
I just wanted to add what Mr. Junaja said. He rightly pointed out that we need to make enablers part of the system. So from the implementation perspective, whether it's a ESG framework or we talk about carbon neutrality, it's very important that the implementation drives are cascaded at the same tempo upstream into the entire value stream. We've talked about in the morning about, Dr. Rakesh pointed out that we need to very precisely identify what are short-term goals and what are long-term goals. From systems perspective, short-term goals are often enemies of the long-term goals. When we talk about long-term strategies, the ecosystem, the horizons, the enablers are entirely different. When it comes to short-term, the goals are bigger and visible, where the distant goals appears to be shorter, but we actually take it that they are not important. So once we talk about implementing the strategies from the carbon footprint neutrality or ESG framework, so on month-on-month basis, we talk about the bottom lines and P-lines and L1 suppliers and all. So somewhere down the line, we actually do not pay much attention to them. And then it becomes a compliance completion exercise. So this is very important. Whatever we put into the policies, it has to be cascaded in terms of information to the entire value stream upstream. So this is what we call as, we do in simple terms as value stream simplification. So given a short time, I just wanted to conclude that we need to look into the entire value stream and try to simplify it. All the goals and the enablers are embedded into the simplification process. So that's what I want to conclude.
Global volatility demands TBL mastery for Scope 3 sovereignty. Yet India's low carbon cement race operationalizes it to procurement audits. Geopolitical chaos elevates procurement from compliance shows to strategic sovereignty engines. India's low carbon cement sprint against CBAM tariffs audits now enforce modular upgradability, water positive grinding, process controls, and alternative materials delivering TBL resilience at scale.
Yeah, good afternoon. I am Anil Badgotri from JK Cement. So I think I'm the only person from cement industry in this forum.
That question is for you.
So I can answer it. So cement, as far as cement is concerned, the decarbonization journey started 40 years back. It's a 4-decade story we started. So decarbonization in cement is actually the reduction of clinker in cement. So in 1991, BIS came with issued a norm which encouraged the use of fly ash in cement. So if you see at that time, the consumption of fly ash in cement was hardly 10%. It's less than 10% even. So now the cement industry is consuming 30% of the total fly ash, total cement production. So actually the country was facing a lot of issues with the fly ash generated by the thermal plants, and cement industry has actually solved it. Now, if you see, means sometimes this fly ash is in scarcity. The fly ash is not available sometimes. So, as far as the question concerned, so from the procurement perspective, whenever any projects comes for any cement industry, the role of the procurement is to see the layout first of the plant which is coming. This is required because there should be a space. There should be a space allocated to the CCUs, for the WHRS, for the alternate raw material, for the alternate fuels. So that is actually the required from the procurement side first of all. And as you said, the water positivity. So the water positivity is actually, there are technologies in the world. So cement industry consumes water in grinding mills. So what procurement professionals should do is actually they should see the technology where the water consumption can be either reduced or maybe removed. So I will just give you an example. Like we had order for our Jaisalmer Greenfield project, and we selected the mill, grinding mill, which has actually zero water consumption. So that is the way we can save the water while producing the cement. And one more thing, which we have done is in our white cement plant. So there is a technology to collect the water from the heat by converting the heat into the water. So like we are actually using 25 KL water every day, every hour. So by this equipment, by putting this equipment, we are able to recover almost 60% of water. So that is actually from the water positivity side. And apart from this, in grinding, we have avoided to use heat, the hot gas, which normally, actually hot gas is required in the grinding process to take care of the moisture in the raw material. So now the technology is improved. There are some manufacturers who are supplying the mills which doesn't need any hot gas. So that is another way. And if we see the mining, because the mining is a process where a lot of things can be done, because the limestone is the main raw material for the cement industry. For every 1 ton of cement, we need 1.5 ton of limestone. So there are limestone which is actually not usable at steel or the chemical industry. Cement industry is take care of that limestone, is actually conserve the mineral. And we installed a lot of things, means like the cross-belt analyzer, the stakers and reclaimer, to make these use of sub-grade limestone, is only to increase the life of the mineral, increase the life of the mine. And also we have done a lot of things which are actually AI enabled in the process optimization. So process optimization is a way again which reduces the which actually can replace the raw materials. So this is from my side as far as the water positivity and the heat positivity is concerned.
LCC cement procurement audits enforce TBL resilience against CBM threats effectively. Assembly lines targeting net zero operations now demand defect-free, low-carbon material flows, where supplier ecosystem metrics eliminate emissions-heavy rework and ensure seamless, sustainable integration resilient to regulatory shocks and raw material swings. For assembly lines targeting net zero operations, what metrics can CPOs strategically oversee in supplier ecosystems to secure these defect-free, low-carbon materials that eliminate emissions-heavy rework, ensuring seamless integration of sustainable materials resilient to future regulatory shocks and raw material volatility?
Putting the first thing first, we need to identify suppliers upstream who are energy intensive. So identify processes which are energy intensive, particularly steel factories use furnaces primarily driven by the fossil fuels. So the metrics, generally people use carbon attributed to the product as a benchmark measure to assess the amount of carbon which enters into the products. So this needs to be identified across the upstream value stream and converted into the renewables inputs. Some of the suppliers which we've done in the past, the metal powder suppliers using electric arc furnaces, using scrap materials to melt, and then reuse the energy, the waste energy to dry the molten powder, which otherwise was used by the direct fossil energy. Apart from that, for Scope 1 emissions, the inputs from the renewable energy like wind energy or the solar was taken into account. But the point is, this is done by a few industry, but a lot of steel industry in India need to implement these as a measure. As I said earlier, the entire system, the ecosystem, needs to work in tandem to get things right in this direction. So we also need to see the distortion, the price versus the carbon content over a period of time onto the products which are being manufactured, as well as the material replaceability for lesser or decarbonized content into the products. Or do we have a replacement of zinc, or can we bring in an alternate material with the same strength and properties in coming into the product? So all these put together in one time frame can be tackled through collaboration across the industries. That's the point.
Just wanted to compliment you, Dr. Upadhayay, is that I was just going through this. Aluminium, right? It generates close to 20 kg of carbon per kg of processing, right? While copper does it close to 3.83 kg. Now, and I'm coming back to again the question which I raised, that while we are looking forward these things on the supplier ecosystem, how do we start designing our product with this in mind? So let us say today, if I am using a particular material for a component, if I go back and put it into a repurposed material, will I be reducing the carbon emission? So while we start looking at which business partner is using more green energy so that his carbon emission is less, in terms of assembly operations, who is more efficient, if we do not start building this at the core of the design, the journey towards achieving this would be more and more difficult for all of us. So just to complement what you said.
Supplier assurance frameworks verify scope 3 reductions credibly while preserving velocity. Direct gain procurement for ethanol blending navigates APMC regulations, spot buying sidesteps rigid mandis, but exposes scope 3 to seasonal carbon gaps and price volatility during 20% post-fuel blending mandates. For APMC constrained grain to ethanol procurement, what supplier metrics secure low carbon feedstock flows without long-term contracts?
Namaskar. My name is Suresh Singh Chauhan. I am from Zuari Envien Bioenergy Private Limited. It is a sister concern of Zuari Industries Limited. The group is Advanced Group. Earlier it was known as Dr. K.K. Bilda Group. So I am representing the company that is Zuari Envien. We also have the joint venture with the Envien Group, that is the European company. And we are engaged in the ethanol manufacturing, grain-based ethanol manufacturing. If you see 2-3 years back, India also producing the ethanol by the sugarcane. Sugarcane factories byproduct, that is the molasses, and that molasses becoming the ethanol, and that ethanol actually it was the alcohol, and it was going to basically for the liquor companies. So if now we are talking about the grain based ethanol, it means it is also helping in the sustainable approach, the sustainable business, in the just self-reliant to the biofuel inventory. If you see now the worldwide, globally, we are fighting for the field, for the food, and the major fight is for the fuel. Recently, if you see the America's pressure to other countries, basically for the Middle East countries, for the fuel. So sometimes this happens in the worldwide. India also may be impacted, but just 2-3 years back, India government made a plan that they want to self-reliant in the fuel inventory, and they launched the program EBP20. So they also encourage the promoters, they come to install the plants, and that plants to be designed to convert the grain into the ethanol. So now as we also have the grain based ethanol manufacturing unit, and we also converting the same feedstock. So we as a ethanol manufacturer, now if you are also using the 20% blended ethanol nowadays, so ultimately it also reducing your carbon emissions. Not only the carbon emissions, it also helping to the farmers. Farmers also getting the benefits, because the grain which we are using in the ethanol, not that grain generally used for the human consumption, because the India government restricted some SOPs here, that you can use either you can use the maize, corn, makka, or you can use the DFG, damaged food grain, like broken rice, that is also byproduct of the rice milling units. So we also that feedstock our factory and convert it into the ethanol. And whenever we talk about the maize, actually maize, makka, just not limited to the makki, the saag, and makka ki roti and the saag. Now it is the industrial product. Nowadays, if you see the data of the maize production, just 2 or 3 years back, 3 years back it was around 35 million metric ton. India was producing maize. In the 24, it was around 39 million metric ton. Nowadays, Indian farmers producing around 42 million metric ton maize because of the grain-based ethanol manufacturing units, because demand of the maize has increased. And the maize, if you see as a perception of the farmer, as a perception of the environmentalists, as a for perception of agriculturist, it is very simple crop. It can be grown any time in India. It is a day neutral, some kind of the day neutral plant. It can be grown in a 3 season in India. Generally, crops are limited with the season and the weather and climate, like wheat. आप wheat को केवल रबी crop में ही grow कर सकते हैं. Wheat can be grown in the रबी season only. In some limited areas, like North India में ही हो सकता है. अगर आप South में जाएं तो wheat की production कम होगी. But the maize can be grown every part of the India. आप hills पे भी grow कर सकते हैं. You can grow on the plain. You can grow in the north. You can grow in the east. Everywhere, and you can grow in any season. The second thing, maize also has lesser requirement of the water. पानी की भी इसको कम requirement होती है. Otherwise, दूसरी जो crop है, the crop of the like rice, sugarcane, they need much more water. But मक्की एक ऐसी crop है कि कई बार वर्षा के आधार पे भी हो जाती है. ठीक ठाक बारिश हो गई तो मेज हो सकती है. And the cost of cultivation also less rather than other crops. So if I see the sustainable approach in this business, right from the farmers to the last user, the ethanol becoming very sustainable approach in whole supply chain. That's all.
Supply metrics secure low carbon grain flows despite APMC constraints, but they merely scratch the surface of scope 3 challenges. The upstream supply chain, as you rightly mentioned, reveals the two scale. Raw material extraction and energy intensive processing generate 70 to 90% emissions, inflating costs 15 to 25% under geopolitical shocks and penalties like CBAM, CSRD. Grain level metrics stabilize near-term blending targets, yet upstream waste streams dwarf them by orders of magnitude. Procurement must now tier suppliers by maturity, unlocking 10 to 20% emission cuts, green bargaining leverage, and margin resilience through waste value collaboration. In upstream supply chains where waste from raw material extraction and high energy processing drives 70 to 90% of scope 3 emissions, escalating costs, as I said, by 15 to 25%, how can procurement strategies prioritize supplier maturity assessments to unlock business gains like 10 to 20% emission cuts, enhance bargaining power through verified green credentials, and resilient margins via collaborative waste to value innovation?
So I'm Preet Kahlon. I work with Cairn Oil and Gas Vedanta Limited. Like one of my fellow panelists, Mr. Rajesh just mentioned, he's working with Renew Power, a division or a industry which is itself into sustainability. Whereas I come from old school area, crude oil and gas production, which is one of the major generators of carbon, So as we've gone through the afternoon, and there's some very interesting discussions happening. We've heard things like sovereignty, the volatility across the world, how Washington is playing game, China's hegemony on materials, European Union's enhancing standards, and how it is impacting procurement. And we have had different narratives. Like renewable industry, what is it doing? They're already earning a lot of carbon credits, and how they're still going for more green supply chain. How some of the industries like cement industries are converting fly ash, making sure, giving us a very good example of circular economy. Similarly, we have heard a recent example about agri-industry, which is converting maize into ethanol, which is being used for blending. Now, and we have had a very interesting question put forth. How about a green design, the ESG as a design, not only as a procurement but as a design. So here, if we look at it, the government of India has taken great initiatives. We have been in a very volatile situation, especially from a crude perspective, where we are barely producing 15% of India's oil and gas requirement. We are highly import dependent. There's a lot of political volatility, instability. We have been sourcing crude from Russia. at the same time, to reduce this crude dependence, while we are encouraging domestic, crude oil industry and encouraging exploration and production, we have also started going for substitution. We have gone up to 20% ethanol blending. However, while this is reducing our carbon footprint and making sure that the farmers are also getting some incentives, there are concerns being raised by are the vehicles which are on ground, are they compliant with E20? Not really. Some of the older vehicles are already facing problems because of the E20 blending. So here, that green designing comes into play. If the government of India is talking about enhanced blending, they also need to incentivize the automotive sector to quickly cotton on and make sure that they're deploying technologies which are conversant with E20 kind of fuel. And if we want to go for even more blending, then are we setting those norms for the automotive sector? So all the sectors of the economy have to move in congruence. And we are at that stage where ESG is no longer lip service. It's the way that we live. It's a part, it's getting embedded in our life. Life is changing. Like for example, Sir gave a very good example. A couple of years back, maybe 10 years back, if somebody would have said that I'm going to use recycled material, it would have been frowned upon, that you would want virgin material. Today, it's taken as a sign of creditworthiness. It's taken as a sign of circular economy. On a personal front, for example, if we go for shopping at Decathlon, they're proudly saying that so much of the material is recycled, and we wear it proudly. We don't frown down upon it. We know that this is absolutely recycled. It's made out of plastic bottles, and we prefer it. So I think that's a mindset change which is happening, and we have to continue evolving on this path and imbibe ESG into the into the very framework of how we are designing our products, designing our supply chain, and continuing this journey. On the similar front, when we're talking about suppliers, not all suppliers are quickly coming up to the task. We'll have to go on to a two-track. Some of the suppliers will be ready. They might be even better than us. I work with in the oil and gas sector where you have major service companies like Schlumberger's and Halliburton's of the world. Some of the initiatives that they're taking are superb, and we can actually learn from them. And then you would have smaller firms who are not really up to that level. But the onus is on us to take them along with us. You do certain supplier education classes, give them some toolkits, ESG toolkits, and help them transition. So I think that's our role as procurement managers, making sure that we learn, we benchmark against the best companies, whosoever is in our supply chain domain, learn from them, osmote these things, and also disseminate it to our other tier 2 suppliers or the lower down suppliers, so they can also come up to the mark. Because ultimately, if our supply chain comes at an enhanced value, it always benefits us. So I think it's very important for us to invest in their training, in their coaching, and help them come up to the mark. That's what I would like to say.
Yeah, I'll just like to add on this. I think you said it very well. I think change happen by two ways. Either you incentivize or you penalize, right? Now, if you do not incentivize supply chain partner who have taken those green initiatives, they may not be able to get the benefit out of these initiatives. So I think as procurement professional, it is very, very important for us to start looking at from the mid-term and long-term perspective. How do we make sure that the investment which has happened to have a better sustainability, they are protected, right? We assure them. So just an example, when I was working with Schneider Electric, which is again one of the top supply chain company, in the last 3 years, we started one project called Top 1000 Suppliers, where we were mapping exactly what you have shared is their carbon footprint. But the key point there was that there was a mandate to each of the category director that the suppliers who are being selected there, right, the business has to be diverted to them. All new development has to happen with those suppliers. When you optimize suppliers, you have to give that business to these focus suppliers, because then they will be promoted to give you more sustainable solution. Just to complement what you said. Thank you.
ESG sovereignty and stewardship. ESG sovereignty and stewardship eat CBAM weaponization for breakfast. Now, geopolitical de-risking demands tier 1 integrator capability. China's raw material pivots forced multinodal sourcing, but EU-Chile duty-free windows require single source velocity without single point failures. Procurement maturity architects dual source orchestration frameworks that deliver 98% OTIF while maintaining 25% cost arbitrage against China plus one benchmarks. How can procurement tactically prioritize strategic sovereignty through multi-sourcing from vetted tier 1 2 suppliers, buffer stock critical green materials, flexible ESG linked contracts with escape clauses, real-time risk scoring via collaborative platforms, and localized circular loops to cut scope 3 emissions by 20 to 30%. Enforce rigorous vetting through without single point failures and scale self-sufficient scale self-sufficient sourcing networks via the triple bottom line.
I just like to add in here. Just an example, when I talked about value stream simplification, the idea is to shorten the value stream in order to cut down the scope 3 emissions. So once we do it, we shorten the lead time, we become more accurate. To the fundamentals, variations are inevitable in supply chains. So there are two culprits we generally talk about. One is the lead time variance, the other is demand variance. So in conventional supply chain dynamics, the stocks or safety stocks are function of lead time variance and demand variance. So if we do not have visibility over demand variance in a connected supply chain, which happens often, the lead time is more in control upstream when we talk about procurement functions. So how to cut down the lead time variance is to bring supplier closer to your system. I'll give you a very apt analogy which has been proven fruitful when I used to work across my teams. Consider human body as a system and consider oxygen as a critical raw material. The supplier of this raw material is local, which is environment. The supplier is 100% reliable. The supply happens in lots which are deterministic, remains constant, and supply is frequent. So the variance in supply is 0. The variance in demand is 0. You need not to keep safety stock. And akin to the other conditions, when the supplier is not reliable, go to mountain peaks where you carry oxygen cylinders. Because the supplier is not reliable, the variance comes into the picture. So when you work towards simplifying the entire value stream, see, this is the basic idea when we work on. So you bring in ESG into picture, we bring scope 3 emissions into picture, or you talk about disruptions. When we talk about disruptions, when you have a reliable suppliers across closer to you, you become robust, you transform from sustainable scenario to a sovereign scenario where majority of things come under your control. You can eliminate waste from the entire ecosystems, where in procurement we talk about the tactical achievements by passing on waste from one side to the other side. But then the value addition to the entire ecosystem becomes 0. So ma'am talk about bringing changes to design to bring value in terms of reducing carbon footprints or making it greener. So that adds value to the entire ecosystem, whether it is supplier or the buyer. So the point which you're trying to address, so the fundamental mindset which is set across the entire value streams can bring about the change. So we, in my organizations, we reduced, converted 85% import to localized vendors, not only by shifting sourcing to India, but also developing alternate materials. And that happened only with the collaborative approach. We need to increase the mindset and bring together all functions, including R&D, engineering, quality, and procurement, into one common goal to bring in change. So all these approaches club together as a part of a value stream simplification. And this exercise, when it is done in tandem, continuously for a period of time, can address all these concerns. That's the point.
India's procurement sovereignty isn't a dream. It's the hard pivot corporate India executes daily. Localize 70% critical inputs, weaponize TBL to cut scope 3 by 25%, and turn US ego theatrics plus China's chokeholds into a structural moat. National interest equals executed leverage, not wished for glory. TBL procurement proves India's strategic bulwark. Upstream maturity monetizes waste. Tactical buffers neutralize disruptions. Functional innovations deliver ROI. Comprehensive KPIs ensure compliance. Contractual agility preserves capital. Localization completes self-reliance. EU-Chile breakthroughs outweigh quarterly tariff pain. Positioning exporters for sustained dominance, from absorbing foreign volatility to architecting sovereign supply chains. Procurement evolves from the tactical function to national strategic asset. India's disciplined execution transforms tariffs burden into circular investments, demonstrating Atmanirbhar resilience triumphs over global uncertainty. Heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speakers for elevating this conference. Your insights empower India's procurement leadership. Thank you, everyone.